Watson? John Watson?
Professor Stamford.
Mr. Watson, it is you.
Well, it's actually Dr. Watson now.
Doctor, of course, of course. What the devil have you been up to?
Well, currently seeking lodging, trying to solve the problem of finding comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. What's so funny?
Well, you are the second man to put that expression to me today.
Oh, really? And who was the first? I should very much like to meet him.
Well, you don't know him yet. Perhaps you would not wish to have him as a constant companion.
Why? What is there against him?
Good afternoon, Mr. Holmes. There is someone that I would like you to meet. Dr. John Watson, an old medical student of mine.
Army doctor, recently discharged for injury. You'll do nicely. I have my eye on a suite in Baker Street that'll suit our needs nicely. We can meet tomorrow at noon to arrange everything.
Jolly good. Just one thing, though. How did you know I was seeking lodging in the first place? Or about the military service?
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, sir.
Well, that's 5 o'clock. Another day done. Just an hour till supper. Tell me, my dear, how did you occupy your time today?
Martha and I went down to Holborn Emporium. Her husband had gone on to his dreadful den, and she needed to get out of the house. Now I've just been sitting here rereading your adventures. It's extraordinary that all of these tales were true.
Well, life is infinitely stranger than anything the mind of man can create, my dear.
Have you heard from him? He hasn't seemed to call on you lately.
Not for about a month now. I'm sure the criminals of London have endeavored to keep Holmes in enough danger without me.
Perhaps he thinks danger is a bachelor's trade.
Perhaps so.
Well, so this arrived for you today. What could that be?
the devil are you doing, tapping on the window?
Sorry, old boy. I thought a less conventional way of entrance was necessary given the circumstances. Oh, hello, Mary. So lovely to see you. Would you mind closing the blinds, making every effort to make it appear that you two are alone? I think you know me well enough, Watson, to know that I am not a nervous man. But it is stupidity rather than courage to deny danger when it is so close upon you. To fully appreciate the predicament which I now find myself in, we must first venture back to the beginning. A year ago, I received a letter from a Mr. John Douglas, an aristocrat from Burlstone. The following Friday, we found ourselves sitting across from one another in my consulting room.
Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Mr. Holmes. I trust what I have to say will be well worth your time.
Pray, continue.
For years there have been rumors of dark power rising in the shadows, of an organization standing always against the rule of law, and whose shield covers over wrongdoers. I am here to tell you that the rumors are true, and it is all orchestrated by one man.
Professor Moriarty.
He is the Napoleon of crime. He is the organizer of half that is evil and nearly all that is undetected in this great city. He sits like a spider in the center of a web, where the agent may be caught, but the central power which uses the agent is never caught. This is the man that I'm here to offer you.
Mr. Douglas, you realize that what you're doing is nothing short of betraying the most dangerous man in London. What would lead you to do such a thing considering the risk?
Moriarty knows no loyalty. I've been a part of the organization for the better part of 5 years, and I have seen the depravity of its leader firsthand. A month ago, my nephew, Walter West, was asked to deliver certain documents to the professor, documents from the Royal Naval offices where he was employed. The police traced the theft to him and apprehended him. He didn't last a day in prison before Moriarty had him silenced. My side was chosen that day.
We devised a book code by which to send correspondence to one another, to be sure only he and I could read them. For months, he sent me scraps of information leading to various crimes committed by the professor and his organization. However, after 9 months, Douglas began to worry that Professor Moriarty suspected him. With Inspector Lestrade's help, we devised an extraction plan.
Mr. Holmes, you'd better come with me.
It was over. We had missed our chance. Then, suddenly I noticed something. Moriarty's photograph. The photo was taken of him in his office. Behind him hung a painting reported to have been sold to a private collector for over £40,000. How would a professor making £700 a year afford such a piece? The answer had been staring me in the face the whole time. Someone with a network as large as Moriarty's must keep a financial record. Using checks from his 6 separate banks, I connected the instances where Moriarty profited from each of the various crimes uncovered by Douglas. Had my effort gone unnoticed, all would have been well. However, this was not the case.
You have less frontal development than I should have expected. And it is a dangerous habit to fondle loaded firearms in the pocket of one's dressing gown. Evidently, you don't know me.
On the contrary, I think it's fairly obvious that I do. Pray, have a seat. I can spare you 5 minutes, if you've anything to say.
Everything I have to say has already crossed your mind.
As I suppose my answer has crossed yours.
You first crossed my path on the 4th of January, and then the 23rd. By the middle of February, I was seriously inconvenienced by you. Towards the end of March, I was positively hampered in my plans. And now, at the close of April, I am at risk of losing my liberty. The situation is becoming an impossible one.
Have you any suggestion to make?
You must drop it, Mr. Holmes. You really must, you know. I'm sure that a man of your intelligence can see that. You've worked things in such a fashion that we have but one recourse left. And it has been an intellectual treat for me to see the way in which you've grappled with this affair, but I say, unaffectedly, that it would be a grief to me to take such an extreme measure.
Danger is part of my trade.
This is not danger. This is inevitable destruction. You stand in the way not merely of an individual, but of a mighty organization, the full extent of which you, in all your cleverness, are unable to comprehend. You must stand clear, Mr. Holmes, or be trodden underfoot.
Well, I'm afraid that during the pleasure of this conversation, I've neglected business of importance which awaits me elsewhere.
Well, it seems a pity, but I've done what I could. I know your every move. This has been a duel between you and I, Mr. Holmes, and you hope to beat me. Rest assured that you never will. If you are clever enough to bring destruction down upon me, I promise you that I shall do as much to you.
Professor, you've offered me several compliments. Allow me to offer you one in return when I say that if the former eventuality was guaranteed,
I would, in the interest of the public, cheerfully accept the latter.
I can promise you one, but not the other.
I confess it left an unpleasant effect upon my mind as I wondered where the first blow would fall. My question was answered immediately. Royal Army sharpshooter and big game hunter, Colonel Sebastian Moran.
Moran. I remember him from my service in India. Always came off as a bit of a bad seed. Chronic gambler in social circles. You say he's now an associate of Moriarty's?
His top assassin. It was he who gave me those evil 5 minutes across the walkways of London. His bullet impacting the wall just inches from my head.
By Jove. But why the sudden desperation to do you in now?
I have seized a thread and followed it. Come Monday, the books will be opened, and the police will have everything they need to bring Moriarty and the principal members of his gang to prison. Then will come the trial of the century, and the clearing up of almost 50 murders, and the rope for all of them. That being said, I would do well to get away for a while, at least until this whole affair is cleared up. I've already booked our tickets for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The second first-class carriage from the front.
Holmes, I cannot go.
Can't go?
I'm sorry, but I cannot just jump up and leave like this on such short notice. I have a family and a practice that need looking after. To walk out on them, even for this.
Yes, of course. I had not considered. 1,000 apologies, my dear Watson. I had no right to spring this on you. Well, I better be off then.
Will you not at least stay the night?
No, I've already put you in enough risk by coming here. After all, danger is a bachelor's trade. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Tortured.
Still awake at this hour?
Sleep seems to be evading me.
Is it Sherlock? Are you beginning to think you made the wrong choice?
No, I believe I'm doing the right thing. And yet every fiber of my being rejects it.
Did you want to go with him?
More than anything. He's been my dearest friend for many years, and I wanted nothing more than to help him in his hour of need, but I can't bring myself to abandon my responsibilities.
John. You may not be able to forgive yourself if you abandon your responsibilities here, but I shall not forgive you if you abandon your friend. Go with him, John. Everything will still be here when you return. After all, if this Professor Moriarty really is as dangerous as Sherlock claims, who better to defeat him than Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson?
Thank you, my dear.
Excuse me. Has there been another man in this compartment?
My dear Watson, you've not even condescended to say good morning to me.
Holmes!
Sorry, old boy, but I had to come prepared. As I see you have, and we may have need of it before the end. They burnt our rooms in Baker Street last night.
This is intolerable.
The professor's intentions are clear. As long as he has his gang backing him, nowhere in England is safe. From here on out, we are on the run.
Mr. Holmes, Scotland Yard has successfully rounded up the majority of the Professor's gang. Unfortunately, Moriarty and his second-in-command, Colonel Moran, have escaped.
He's given them the slip. I have underestimated our opponent and overestimated the police. I think it would be a good idea for you to return to London. With these new turn of events, I'm afraid that my selfish desire for a companion has put you in more danger than is necessary. With his organization gone, Moriarty will now focus all his energies on avenging himself upon me.
Nonsense, Holmes. We've been in rough spots before. And besides, it was you who often said in those times that it makes a considerable difference to have someone with you on whom you can thoroughly rely. If this man means to bring destruction upon you, then there's no better place for me to be than by your side.
Your loyalty is appreciated, Watson. Though your lack of self-preservation does concern me.
Now really, Holmes.
But I admit, it would give me great comfort to have my good friend Watson by my side to see it through.
For a charming week, we wandered the Swiss countryside. However, despite the lovely scenery, I could tell Holmes never forgot the shadow which lay across him. What is it, Holmes?
Nothing. We best be on our way.
Well, we're all booked in for the night, and everything seems to be in order. You know, I've noticed you become more uneasy over the past few days.
On the contrary, I'm actually more relaxed than ever. I admit that the notion of being hunted weighed heavily upon my mind. Until today, when it felt as if a weight lifted from my shoulders. The ever-looming shadow of Moriarty has all but passed.
It has?
I've been putting a great deal of thought into the matter of my legacy. Reminiscing my various cases I've put to rest, no small number of which I've done with my dear friend Watson. I think I can go as far as to say that I have not lived wholly in vain. Were my record to be closed tonight, I could rest easy, knowing that the air of London is sweeter for my presence. In over 1,000 cases, I cannot think of once when I've used my powers upon the wrong side. My career may come to an end.
And what would you do then? When this is all over, that is.
Of late, I've been tempted to look into the problems furnished by nature rather than our artificial society. I think I'll move to the country and take up beekeeping. On the holidays, you and the wife can come down, and you can relish her with tales of our adventures in front of the fire with erroneous inaccuracies. And everything can be as it was.
The innkeeper recommended we take a look at the falls of Reichenbach in the morning, before we make our way to Laurie.
Well, then we better get some sleep. We have a long day ahead of us tomorrow. Good night, Watson. Good night.
So where to now, Holmes?
There's a walkway about halfway down the fall. If we mind our footing, we should be able to make it across to the other side.
Dr. Watson? Dr. Watson? Dr. Watson?
Dr. Watson,
Yes?
an Englishwoman arrived at the inn not 5 minutes after you left. She's dying, sir, and she's begging us to find an English doctor to look after her.
I see. Well, I'm sorry, Holmes, but I must go back. It'd be impossible for me to refuse the request of a fellow countrywoman dying in a strange land.
By all means, my good fellow.
Will you not return as well?
No, I shall stay here and wait for your return. I'm sure I can find something to entertain myself.
I trust she's no worse.
Who?
The Englishwoman.
There is no English woman here.
Did you not write this?
This must have been written by that tall Englishman who came in here after you had gone. He said you should...
My dear Watson, I write these few lines to the courtesy of Moriarty, who awaits my convenience for the final discussion of those questions which lie between us. I am pleased to think I will be able to rid society from any further effect of his presence, though I'm afraid it comes at a cost, which will bring great pain to my friends, and especially, dear Watson, to you. I must confess, I was convinced the note from the inn was a hoax, and allowed you to depart knowing some such development would occur. I have already explained to you that my career, in any case, had come to a crisis, and no possible conclusion could be more congenial to me than this. Pray give my greetings to Mrs. Watson, and believe me to be, very sincerely yours, Sherlock Holmes.
A few words will suffice to tell the little that remains. Any attempt at recovering the bodies was absolutely hopeless. There in that deep cauldron of seething water and foam will forever lie the most dangerous criminal and the foremost champion of the law, whom I shall ever regard as the best and wisest man whom I have ever known.
I trust the arrangements to your satisfaction.
Yes. Quite acceptable.
And you don't mind the smell of strong tobacco, do you?
Oh, not at all. I smoke a pipe myself.
Oh, good. I've also been prone to do experiments in my lodgings. I trust that won't pose a problem.
Can't imagine so.
Excellent. Now let me see. What are some of my other little shortcomings? That is my chair. What is the meaning of it, Watson? What is the object of this cycle of violence, misery, and fear? It must have a purpose. Otherwise, our universe has no meaning, and that is unthinkable. But what purpose? That is humanity's final problem, to which reason so far offers us no answer. But you and I, Watson, we've done our part.